I could walk away, but I don't want to leave them in the money. And that's the honest truth. But I love my job. But the main thing, man, anybody who works to the day they die, that's just stupid.
Why does well some people like to work. It's almost tied into
Yeah,
their
but but you
hobby. By
but
the way,
but you got to realize that at some point when you get older, you're not going to be able to enjoy life as much as you would when you were younger. So you might as well enjoy it at some period in life, especially if you worked hard your whole life. At some point, you'd be like, hey, you know what? I'm nearing the end because you have to be realistic. Hey, I'm 60 years old. I'm not going to be 100 more than likely. So I want to enjoy the last part of my life. I don't want to be going to work and, you have to do a lot of radio shows throughout the week. It's
right?
because you promote your show on other shows. So I always say, hey, enjoy the back nine of life. So another couple years, I'm gonna try to make it all three. But if I don't, hey, everybody's been great to me. I mean, I think about
Wow.
all the guys I played with in high school and college and NBA and all the guys in television. I've had a great run, so I got no complaints, none at all.
Did you ever think that you would spend more time really in broadcasting and almost be as famous, maybe if not more so, doing that than playing basketball?
It's interesting, Chris. That's a great question. That's a hard no. Me and Ernie joke all the time because I actually thought I'd work on television. When I took the job, Ernie pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, what do you want to? How long are you going to do this?" I said, "I'm going to do it for a couple of years." And then I was thinking about becoming a general manager or president in the NBA. And I had several opportunities, but they wasn't perfect. They wouldn't give me complete control, which I wanted, because if I'm gonna fail, I want to fail myself. Some of them wanted to hire the people who hired the people around me. I said, no, I know more people in basketball than you do. So I've had three or four opportunities, and it just kind of kept going and kept going. And like I say, I've always loved my job. When we first started with me, Kenny, and Ernie, it was fabulous. And then Shaq came along and brought a whole new vibe to the show. So I've always
Yeah.
loved working there. I mean,
Uh-huh.
Turner's a great place to
Right.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. What, by the way, so team, can you tell us which teams you might have worked in the front office for, or is that old news, or you don't want to
No,
reveal
no,
it?
I can't do that
Uh,
because like I say,
okay.
I did not want to become a distraction because
Okay.
because first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fire everybody who worked there because I want to
What?
have the. I mean, you've heard that term. You want to hire people that
Your
you know.
people, right? But there might be some good people there that you would like that are already in place. But I get you. By the way, why does
Well,
Shaq
but
do
if
so
they were
many
getting, hey,
commercials?
listen, if they were getting fired, if they were getting fired, they wasn't that good.
Okay, yes, I
Remember?
know. You
Hey,
yes, you would
listen.
make
One
that.
thing I know about sport. Hey, one thing I know about sports. They very seldom hire you for a good job. It's always a shitty job. That's the reason people got fired. They don't say, "Hey, here's the Milwaukee Bucks. The team is on the verge of being great for the next 10 years." So usually when you get
Yeah,
fired, the team sucks.
right. Okay, that's how good. By the way, why does Shaq do so many commercials? It's almost annoying, isn't
He's an
it?
interesting guy. What I mean, like, he actually likes to work all the time. I mean, Chris, he
Okay, let's
does
talk about that.
something, and I wonder, and I've told him, is he trying to get that same high as being Shaquille O'Neal? And
Oh,
I told him, I said, ain't nothing better than being Charles Barkley or Shaquille O'Neal when you play basketball. And I can never replicate that feeling. And I think sometimes he just likes to work all the time to know, uh, like he just wants to. I've got to be, and like you can't ever get that feeling again.
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. I remember. Yeah, Joe Montana told me after he retired from football, he tried like breaking horses and flying airplanes
Yeah.
and just that rush, and that's why you guys do it. And I will talk a little bit about some of your playing days, but let me just some current NBA stuff. You're not a fan of super teams, right? Why is that?
I'm not. No, I'm not a fan of super teams at all. I mean, if all the guys got to get together and join up and win, that doesn't seem like number one real competition. And I just don't think it's fair to the fans. I mean, because every time one of these superstars leave a team, it ruins that franchise. And I just don't think that's fair. I don't think it's a good business model first and foremost. We can't have three or four good teams and 28 bad teams. That's just not a good business model.
So, do you think the commissioners should do something? Do you blame players for being? You can't fault them in a system to right cash in and go where they want to go. I mean, you. Oh, I guess
Yeah,
would
well,
you? Yeah, you.
you can blame the
Yeah.
players. You can blame them, but hey, it's their generation. They can do whatever the hell they want to. But I personally, I like competition. Uh, I want to beat the best. That's one thing I admire about Giannis. Giannis, like, no, I don't want to team up with no super teams. I want to
Mhm.
win a championship in Milwaukee. Same thing. I look at a guy named like Dirk Nowitzki. He had all these guys could leave and go play with other super teams, but they chose like, no, no. I want to win for my city, and I want to win not by yourself, but by myself.
Do you kind of point the finger at LeBron for starting this?
Sure, he's the first guy who did it. But I don't want to say he did anything wrong, but I didn't like when he did it because he ruined the Cleveland franchise. Um, and then when he went back, I thought it was awesome, and winning there was cool. But then when he left again, it ruined that franchise again.
Yeah.
But he's the first guy who did it. And listen, we he's a lot of these guys get caught up in these idiots and jackasses and fools on morning television talking about they haven't won anything. And I always laugh. I'm like, thank God Michael Jordan and guys like that didn't think like that. They battled through it. And to me, that's what sports are about, the battle, the journey. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to
All right.
win. But if you're
But
gonna just get together with your friends and win, that does not seem like a lot of competition to me.
yeah, but Charles, I remember. So you start out with the Sixers in your career, the Suns. You're that close before that '93, and then you went to the Rockets. That I don't know if that was a super team. Was that a team? I know it was a little bit different then, but weren't you? I mean, you wanted to get a ring before you stepped away, right? I mean, so
Well, I did, but they traded me to Houston. I didn't ask to go to Houston. I think that's
yeah,
a
I
little
know it
bit
wasn't
different.
yeah,
Yeah,
it wasn't a
no,
super team, right? But you,
yeah, it wasn't a super. Well, first of all, it wasn't a super team because we were all 97 years old. Um,
hey,
if we had a
that's kind of
guy,
like the
if we had
Lakers.
got together, if we had got together when we were 30, it would have been a super team. But we were all 40, so it was like a bunch of uh, aging, depends wearing superstars at that age we were at. Hey, there was a lot of Ben Gay. There was a lot of Ben Gay and Asarbin Jr. and things in the locker room when you get around 40.
That's funny. But speaking of that, because that was the Lakers this year, or at least coming into the upcoming season. Again, you know, talking about they're gathering a lot of I don't know aging players. I think they have half of the oldest players in the league on that one roster.
Well,
Are they going to be the?
they're not
Good.
gathering aging players. They're gathering old players. Go ahead and say it, Chris. Let it roll off your tongue. Old players.
I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be. I don't want to be rude. So who's the team? You got the Brooklyn Nets. Oh, by the way, what do you think of Ben Simmons saying he doesn't want to be in Philadelphia? What would you? How would you handle that?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out. He's bad at something, and he's mad because they want him to work on his craft. They're paying him $40 million a year. This is one of the reasons I said earlier. One of the reasons I'm gonna walk away from this thing pretty soon. We got a guy making $40 million for the next 4 years. They ask him to work on his game because every time they get in the playoffs, he went 4 games in a 7-game series that didn't take a shot in the fourth quarter, and he's mad at the team. That's one of the reasons I don't like the situation that we're dealing with today, where the players make so much money they're 100% in control. I mean, you think about that. This guy makes $40 million a year. The team get on his ass to work on his game, and his thing is, I don't want to play here anymore. And anybody who thinks that's a good way to do business is just an idiot. Period.
Okay, so we have that situation. We have the Lakers. What about the Brooklyn Nets? I'm trying to get you. Give me your where we are now. The top three teams, or maybe your top how you rank the best teams going into the NBA season.
Well, clearly the Lakers are going to be good, and the Brooklyn Nets are going to be good, but the Milwaukee Bucks are the champs. So To me, those are the top three teams in the NBA right now, in no particular order. No particular order, but you got to
Okay.
get a champs their respect. You got to get a champs their respect. But it's going to be, like I say, once LeBron started the arms race thing, it becomes an arm race. He did it in Miami. And then when he got to LA, he made his agency trade for Anthony Davis, and that made them a really, really good team. And they
Hmm.
probably would have arguably won the championship again this year if Anthony Davis had been healthy. So
Yeah.
now the Nets get together. So LeBron has to go out and get Russell Westbrook. So listen, it's not a lot of fun working basketball when you know who's going to win. Um,
Right. Right.
but it is what it is, brother.
Yeah. Now have you talked to LeBron a little bit about this, or are you guys on good terms, or does he not like what you say?
We're on
Because
great
he's
terms.
kind of a
Me and
polarizing guy.
LeBron,
Yeah.
we're on great terms. He's always treated me great. I actually think he's one of the most amazing men I've ever met. But we don't have to agree on everything. I respect
Fair enough.
him. I admire him. I think he respects me. But I can have an opinion about him that is not favorable as far as basketball related. Uh, I'm not in this generation where if a guy says something about me, I feel the need to not speak to him or not ever, address it or whatever. So I think me and LeBron are cool.
You played against Michael Jordan, of course, and we don't want to sound old school here, like, hey, back in the day, this guy was better. But that debate, and I always like coming back to it with you because you are so candid about things. There isn't much debate in your mind that Michael, if we're talking, we could go eras and all that, but best of all time, if we did single it down, you're going Jordan over LeBron, right? That's without a question.
Yeah, I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think the game is a lot easier nowadays. I mean, one thing I noticed about that Last Dance thing was, wow, they beat the hell out of Michael Jordan. You forget,
Yeah.
even though you realize they were called the bad boys for a reason. But when you sit down and saw him just getting his ass kicked for 3 years, like physically beaten up, and then you see he didn't go join a super team. He like, no, I'm gonna fight my way through this, and he did. And that to me is
Yeah.
the first thing, fighting through that. And like I said, he could have joined the super team if he wanted to. We all could have, but we
Right.
didn't. But when I look at that Last Dance and what Michael went through instead of joining the super team, that to me will always give him the edge. And let's be fair, I haven't even moved LeBron past Kobe from what
Well,
I saw in LeBron. And LeBron's an amazing talent. He's an amazing person. But when I'm talking about if I got a basketball game where I need one guy, I'm gonna go with Michael and Kobe, and probably maybe LeBron might be third on that list, up there with Magic and Bird and guys like that. But as far as my personal opinion, especially after watching the Last Dance,
yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna give Michael the edge.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if you saw that playing against Michael or not back in your day, that physical part of it. But speaking of that, if we said the
Well, listen.
95,
Let's get one thing straight. Hey, Chris,
yeah,
the
yeah,
only physical team out there trying to hurt people were those jackass Detroit Pistons. Like the Knicks. In fairness, the Knicks had some physical players,
yep,
but but they were not out there trying to hurt people like the bad boys. They were out there like
yeah,
physically,
yeah,
when we played against the Pistons, it was like you knew it was going to be a war that night. But like I say, going back and experiencing that Last Dance, and Michael, people forget Michael lost those guys 3 years in a row,
yep, yep,
and but he
yeah.
just
Bill
kept getting
Embiid,
bigger and stronger. I mean, they had a bunch of dudes over there who out there like they were going to use their 6 fouls a night.
yep, yep. Those Embiid, Vinnie Johnson. So how about this? 95 Bulls or the 2015 Warriors? Who's the better team in your opinion? Who wins a 7-game series?
Well, I don't think Michael ever even got to a 7 game series in the finals. So he was not going to
Yeah, you
lose
might.
once he get to the finals. Never even had a 7 game in 6 years, in
That's is
six times to the finals.
wow.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yep.
And and listen, that Warriors team, Steph and Clay are unbelievable, but are they gonna score like that against Michael and Scotty? Hell no, hell no.
Okay.
I've never
All
seen
right. I
two.
guess.
Uh, I've I've never seen two better defenders than Michael and Scotty. And and I've always said this: as great a player as Dennis Rodman was, I thought when the Bulls had Horace Grant, they were better defensively
Yep.
because Horace Grant was
Yep.
great defensively.
Yep.
I
Yep.
thought that Bulls team. I always have thought that Bulls team with Horace Grant was better than the ones with the Rodman group, in my personal opinion, because Horace
Yep.
Grant was a better all-around player than Dennis Rodman. He wasn't a better
That's right.
rebounder, but as far as being an all-around basketball player, Horace Grant was a better player.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And we know Rodman defense rebounding, but obviously scoring was not his forte. What I was going to ask you, and I know you don't like to talk about '93, and Paxson hits the go-ahead three there, and the seconds remain. Is that like one of the most painful? Is that the most painful moment in your playing career?
Probably, yeah, for sure. It was because when I got traded to Phoenix, I remember talking to Cotton Fitzsimmons and I said, "Well, we're going to the finals." This is when I first got traded to Phoenix. I said, "We're going to the finals. We're going to pay the Bulls." And I said, "Michael's a great, great player, but I think I'm just as good, to be honest with you." And I said, "I'm gonna get a chance to prove it." I said, "I never had any help in Philly, and I got Dan and Kevin. We're going to the finals. We're gonna see who I think I'm the best." Uh, and that was a really pain because that was the first. That's really probably honestly the first time in my life I felt like that guy's better than me. Even when I'm playing against Magic and Bird, I'm like, those guys ain't better than me. They just got more help. They got Kareem Worthy, he got Bird,
Right.
McHale, and Parrish. But as far as like, no, ain't no Michael Jordan's the only player I'm thinking like is good who's on my level. And I got a chance to prove it, and I came up short. That's on me.
But you at least got that chance, obviously, and moved on to some other things. And I want to just cover some other things because through the course of it all, you being a dad, and we're just talking about we think we see you as an announcer, as this former great player, Hall of Famer, Olympic team. What's the greatest challenge about being a father? I know your daughter recently married. Congratulations on that. But through the years, how is Charles Barkley as a father? How would you describe that?
Well, Chris, it means a great deal to me to be a good dad. Uh, she is an amazing kid. I always tried to get her ready for the rest of the world. I wanted to make sure she was tough. I wanted to make sure she was smart because the one thing I didn't want was her having to rely on a man. Because a lot of men treat women bad when they pay all the bills and they're in complete control. I'm like, you never have to worry about that. So she went to great schools. She loved going to Villanova. She loves going to Columbia. She's got a great job, and she does not have. If a guy treats her bad, she can say, "Kick rocks, keep moving. I can support myself." But the main thing though, she's a nice person, and that was really important for me. I hate bratty kids, especially because when you're famous and rich and things like that, man, your kids, you have to worry about them all the time as far as like keeping them grounded and making sure they understand that this is not the real world we're living in. And one of my proudest moments when my daughter was at Columbia, she wrote I think it's called a thesis. And I always talk to her about black and white discrepancies, inequalities, and things like that. And probably to the point where I was nauseating. And for her, I got a call from one of her professors one day, and she said, "Dad, one of my professors wants your number." I'm like, "Okay, what did you do?" She said, "I don't think I did anything," and I was like, "Okay, get my number." And he called me. He said, "Mr. Barkley, I just want to let you know I've been a professor for like forever. And your daughter just wrote one of the most thorough theses I've ever seen. And I said, what's it about? She said, the discrepancy between college athletes, black and white, not graduating. And I said, what? She said, yeah, she got all the stats, statistics for like 20, 30 years and showed the discrepancies between black and white players graduating from college. And it was probably one of my most proudest moments of
Hmm.
her because I always tell her that, like, there is a double standard. It is what it is. You don't get to whine, bitch, and complain about it. You're gonna have to work harder than the other kids. Gonna be like, well, that's just she only got this job because she's Charles Barkley's daughter. And I never want people to say that about you. Ever. So you're gonna work twice as hard as everybody else. You kick their ass. Well, first of all, and I said, hey, there's no place for us to go but up. Because Chris, my daughter was like 6 feet tall. My daughter was 6 feet tall when she was like two. So I spent my whole adulthood thinking that she was you there? Our childhood thinking she was gonna be the best basketball player in the world. And then I took her to volleyball, I took her to basketball, I took her to lacrosse, I took her to soccer. And I realized after 2 years she hated sports. And then I asked her one day, I said, Christiana, I need you to be honest with me. Do you like sports? She says, what do you mean, Dad? And I said, I don't think you like sports. I said, I just want you to know you don't have to play sports. You're a great student. You're a great person. I would just tell me if you don't like sports. It won't break my heart. And first of all, I was lying because it did break my heart. I'm not going to tell that lie. And I said, if you don't want to play sports, just tell me. I just want you to be a great student and a great person. He looks at me and says, Dad, I don't like sports at all. And I and, and I
And
remember, Chris, I was just, oh, baby girl, it doesn't matter. I just want you to be the best you can be, blah, blah, blah. Then I went in the next room and started crying for like 2 days because my heart was broken. Because, like I say, she's 6 feet tall. She got a great body. She was tall and lean. And like she's been 6 feet tall since she was probably like 10. So
yeah,
I'm in
wow.
my heyday back then. So I'm thinking I'm going to be raising the next Cheryl Miller, Teresa Edwards, Rebecca Lobo, somebody like that, and she hates sports. And when she told me that, I had to act like it didn't hurt me. And man, I was like a zombie for like 3 days. My daughter don't like sports. How can you be 6 feet tall and at 10 years old and not like sports?
Or yeah, or be related to Charles Barkley and
Yeah,
not like
be my
sports. Wow,
daughter. I'm
that's
like, yeah. I had it nice. My daughter's gonna be the best female basketball player in the world. I'm gonna teach her all the moves. I'm gonna call up my other friends. I say, hey, he's gonna work with you on this. He's gonna work with you on this, and you're gonna be dominating.
but she found her own path, which by the
She
way,
found her
real
own
quick,
path. Yeah.
how would you when she was dating, how would you treat the guy asking her out? I'm sure you had a line that you was your lean on line there.
No, I was yelled at all the time because I wasn't overly friendly. Like, and I'm still mad to this day that I was getting lectured and criticized. Because anytime, anytime, Chris, a guy came to the house, I would say, hey, I'm Charles. I'm Christiana's father. Welcome to my home. Anything you need while you're here, let me know. And then I would go back to my den and start watching sports again. I said, first of all, I'm not going to be hanging out with no damn teenagers. And then
Right.
every time one of these kids come over after they leave, I get yelled at saying I wasn't that friendly. I says, wait, I said, I'm Charles. I'm Christiana's father. Welcome to my home. Anything you need while you're here. I says, that's not friendly. They're like, no, that's not friendly. You need to come in. I'm like, I'm not hanging out with no teenagers. That's first of all, y'all spending time together. Y'all gonna get to know each other. Why I got to be there? And then I was like, hey, Get off my back. I said hello, welcome to the house. That's all I'm gonna do. But I was like, I was cordial. They they say I
Yes,
wasn't friendly. They say I wasn't
that
friendly.
yeah.
I said I was cordial.
There you go. That's funny. Well, you don't want to, if you hang around too much, then you're smothering. So, but I think that
Hey,
could be your
hey
greatest.
Chris, it's always you got a perfect example of you always a lose scenario.
Yeah, a different challenge. It sounds like you did well there. I did want to ask you about since sports in gambling, betting in sports is becoming more and more prominent, more open. We know it's always been there. I know you have talked about going to casinos and gambling within the framework. What advice would you have since it's easier now, younger people to bet and to gamble on sports, given your experience with gambling?
Well, if I had to advise somebody, I'd tell them not to gamble because I love to gamble. Hey, hey,
I know
hey,
you do.
I love it. I love to gamble. I love the juice. I love the excitement. Um, Losing always sucks, but you know, for me, I kind of went off the deep rails. Probably, I went off the deep rails for a minute
Right.
because
By that you mean you
I was
lost you
trying to.
lost a lot of addictive.
No, I was like trying to beat the casino. You can't beat the casino. So I would go, and a couple times I won $1 million. I probably won $1 million 3 or 4 times if I remember correctly. But I've lost a million probably 25, 30 times. So I was on a bad losing streak, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna quit gambling. So I went like probably 2 years without ever stepping foot in a casino. And I was playing golf with a bunch of my friends. And I said, we used to always go to Vegas together, man. They're like, man, I miss Vegas. I said, man, I miss Vegas too. They're like, I said, this is Charles. Gambling's not your problem. Being a fucking idiot is your problem. I'm like, explain to me why you say that. And they're like, Charles, we've been to get Vegas 1,000 times. You've been up 200, 300, 400, $500,000, 400 or 500 of those times. And instead of quitting while you're ahead, you're always trying to get back to that mythical $1 million that you won 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 2 out of 25 times. But you lost the million the other 30 times. 28 out of 30. That's the number I'm thinking of. But if you would quit while you're ahead, you could actually have fun gambling. Quit. You can't break the casino, idiot. And I says, well, let's go to dinner because we were playing golf at the time. So we go to dinner. I invited a bunch of my friends. We have got 4 or 5 of my friends. We just sitting around talking about gambling, and we're like, my boy Roy, explain to them what you said today. They're like, we 100% agree with Roy. Gambling's not your issue. Being a damn fool is an issue. Yo, man, if you're up $300,000, quit, quit. And I thought about it for another couple of months, and then I'm like, okay, now when I go to Vegas, I have a number. Let's say 300,000. If I win 300,000, I quit. If I lose 300,000, I quit. And I have a lot more fun gambling. Obviously, it's fun to win a million, but the pain of losing a million is worse. So I just think my advice, you just got to learn to gamble in moderation, is what I was really trying to end my story with. Because, like, you cannot break the casino. The casino can break you. There's a difference.
Right. Yep.
So my advice to anybody gambling is you have to make up your mind how much you're willing to lose. But the main thing you got to do, you got to quit when you're ahead. Nobody
There you
ever
go.
quits when they're ahead. That's the problem.
So set that's good. Set boundaries and know your limits. I think would be the
Yes.
easiest way. So you mentioned golf in there. I remember you once told me that you could get tired of playing basketball, but you'd never get tired of playing golf. golf is what is that your latest? Is that your latest addiction? I won't call it that, but I mean, you love golf,
You know,
right? We've seen you that many.
golf. When I remember I think it was 1986. I was watching Andrew Toney after practice one day. He had his clubs and he was working on stuff, and I'm like, "What's you doing? What's that?" He says, "Like golf." I see. I've seen that on TV before. He says, "That looks interesting." He says, "You want to go play?" I'm like, "Yeah." And we went to this course, and I could not hit that little ball. A little ball that was just standing there. I'm like, "This is impossible." I'm one of the best athletes in the world, and I can't hit all to just sitting there. And then it became like, no, I got to get better at this. And then as I started liking it, I realized it's one of the few places you can get peace and quiet. You know, I tell people when you go to the grocery store, people want to talk to you. When you go to this dry cleaner, people want to talk to you. Golf for me, being out there with three of my friends for 4 or 5 hours, smoke a couple cigars, have a couple beers. You're not autographing, you're not taking pictures. It is one of the coolest, most relaxing things you can do. Because I tell you got to understand, Chris, when you're really famous, and I don't like saying it like that. Anywhere you go in public, people they
Mhm.
all over you. So you kind of
Right.
be like, yo, man, what can I do? Because you get tired of being at home, but you're like, oh, let's just go to the golf course. These people out here, they ain't gonna
Right.
bother you. There's no big crowds out here. So to me, golf golf is just such a pleasure to be out there uh, with nobody around. Oh man, especially like I'm on the East Coast during the summer, walking around these big ass trees because I like to walk when I play. Just out there in nature, and you can just it's just such a common
Yeah.
effect. I
Yeah.
mean, I just like you look at these trees. They've been there for 100 years. They're massive. You know, Phoenix has got beautiful golf courses because it's all man made. But when you're on the East Coast during the summer, you see these big old trees everywhere. I mean, it's pretty amazing and awesome.
So yeah, it's an escape in a sense, and you have to a little bit like what you were saying about gambling, set your boundaries so that you don't get so frustrated that you double bogeyed a hole or hit into the water. I mean, there's a balance there, right? Of getting so frustrated that the game becomes unfun because you think you should be scoring or you think you're better than you actually are.
Well, I think the main thing you just can't be stupid. You're not playing it for a living. You're not doing it to pay your
Right.
bills. So you should go out there. Hey, I'm going out there with three of my friends. We're gonna smoke some stogies. We're gonna have some fun. Gonna be a lot of trash talk going on. Gonna be a lot of trash talk going on. But you should be smart enough to know, like, I'm not playing on tour. I don't need this to pay my bills. I'm just out here for fun, get some great exercise and things like that.
I want to ask too, Charles. We're coming up on the 30-year anniversary of the Dream Team. I talked to you back then, so that you're right. We are getting a little bit older. What's first thought that comes to mind when we mention that '92 team for you?
Just how awesome and humble everybody was to be around. How much fun we had together. The Olympics are the greatest sporting event in the world. I tell people I've done a lot of things. Ain't nothing comparable to the Olympics. They are flat out awesome. They are flat out awesome. And I just tell people, well, just being there and being around those guys, it was the greatest experience of my life. Representing your country is one of the coolest things you can ever do, and it just brings back great memories. How awesome the guys were together.
How about I wanted to bring back an old memory, but what about happened to the '84 Olympic team? I know things were different then, but you read things,
Oh,
you hear
Bobby Knight.
things over
Oh, it
time, and
wasn't that different.
yeah,
Bobby Knight was just a dick. Bobby Knight was just a dick. I should have made the team. I was the second best player there. Everybody knew it. I was the second best player there, but Bobby Knight, for some reason, didn't like me. He had made up his mind I wasn't gonna make the team. But I was the second best player there to Michael. Uh, I tell you, because when I get back to college, John Thompson, one of the greatest men I've ever met, ever.
Hmm.
He calls Sonny Smith. He said, "Hey, John Thompson wants you in the office. Come by here. He want to put you on speak and talk to you." And John Thompson said, "Charles, I just want to tell you, you were great. You should have made the team. You were the second best player here. And I just want to apologize because you deserve to make the team. You were easily the second best player here." And I said, "Oh, coach, that's really awesome, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for the kind words." So we hang up. But Bobby didn't like you. We have no idea why. We're like, "Bobby, he's the best, second best, but whatever." So we hang up the phone. My coach says, "Wait, I think you're the best college basketball player." I said, "Well, coach, I'm not." I said, "There's this black dude from North Carolina named Michael Jordan." I said, "Coach, I ain't never seen nothing like it in my life." I said, "He's a little taller than me. He's got the best body I've seen. It's like perfectly chiseled." I said, "He cannot run everybody. He cannot jump everybody." I said, "But yeah, I was the second best, but man, we got to start watching out for this kid from North Carolina because he is the best I've ever seen." I remember that conversation vividly with Sonny. I'm like, "Coach, it's something beautiful to behold to watch this dude." And and I'm used to playing against good players. I'm playing against Kentucky with Kenny Skywalker, Melvin Turpin, Sam Bowie. Uh, Georgia had Dominique uh, and James Banks, and who played in the NBA, and Vern Fleming. All three played in the NBA. I says Mississippi State had Jeff Malone. Alabama had Bobby Lee Hurd and Eddie Phillips. So I'm used to playing against really good players. But as a coach, this dude is it's unbelievable how great he is.
So yeah, you remember even back then that you were so that was your from your Auburn days, and then of course the Olympics things changed a little. Fifth overall pick, going back to the 76ers. I'm thinking Charles, women's basketball has becoming not only in college, but the WNBA on television more. The ratings, there's more interest and more attention given to
Yeah.
it. Do you think we'll see a day where, especially you're talking about your daughter too, growing up and hoping she at her size could play? Do you think we'll see a day where women play professional basketball with men on the NBA level?
Uh, I doubt it. I doubt it. I just don't think physically that'd be a lot to ask. Physically, that'd be a lot to ask. But there's so many great women players. We should just appreciate them. But you know, I just don't think so personally.
Yeah, we see it at lower rates of wrestling, some on football teams, but there's a point where I think that I don't know. We
Not
have,
on
you
good
have,
teams. Hey, not on good teams.
All right, so I guess you're saying stay in your lane. Is that where you're going with that?
Well,
Is that the
I don't
deal?
know, say stay in lane, but I listen. There's not going to be a woman on the Alabama football team. I can promise you that, or the Auburn football team.
You
If
talked
we
to me.
listen, and I
Okay.
don't mean, and I don't ever want to disrespect women. If there's a woman good enough to play on Auburn's football team, we need better men players.
Okay, but you think they should at least get the chance, get the opportunity. You'd be for that.
Sure, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That's yeah. Anything
I
you
do
want
want
to
to.
try out for, anything you want to try out for,
Yeah.
you should get the opportunity. But
Okay.
I just
Okay.
don't think. Yeah.
I do want to ask why you think, and you've had a chance to reflect on this, in cancel culture, people say things and they lose their job, they get suspended, they're misinterpreted. You have a way of being very candid and you always have been honest through the years, and yet surviving that. I mean, I have my own theory. I've asked other people, but why do you think that's the case that you're acceptable, even when people disagree or think you've gone too far in a comment or a statement?
Well, I think one of the problems is I think context matter. And
Okay.
if you, whether you crack a joke or say something about somebody, I still think you should be able to crack jokes. I'm not a firm believer in cancel culture unless somebody crosses the line. Uh, and I think some people have gotten fired and who shouldn't have got fired. But the one thing I try to do is I try to never make it personal. I think that's really important. But I think I do think context matter. If somebody feel like I've said something where I crossed the line, I think I'll dial it back and listen to it and listen to it and listen to it. Because you have to realize, because some of these people just assholes. They're just
Yeah,
trying
they
to
moved the
cancel
line.
people. They
Yeah,
move the line, they move the goalpost, whatever you want to say. But they're just assholes trying to get people fired. Like, I don't think I've ever said anything where I deserve to get fired. I mean, I've said some things to get my point across. I mean, I think sometimes you have to get your point across because there's so much junk out there right now. Like, and like I try to be very selective, like because I don't want to cry wolf all the time. But if there's something I want to say, I'm gonna announce it with like, yeah, I needed to get y'all attention.
yeah,
But for the most part, I try because, like I say, this thing has gotten so out of hand now where now they're going after comedians who are telling jokes. I mean, like we've had a couple of meetings at Turner, and the lawyers and HR keep telling me this bullshit about context doesn't matter. And I says, that's the reason we're in this shitty place we're in as a country right now. Context does matter.
yes,
Context to
it
me, it
does.
does matter. They're trying to tell me from a
Yeah,
legal standpoint. I says, hey, listen, you legal people are screwed up the country. I don't know who's worse, the legal people, the Democrats, or the Republicans. That's all three of y'all are shitty. Y'all are screwed up our country. And yeah, I says the Democrats and Republicans are the two worst things that ever happened to America. And now we have to pick the least of two evils, and it's a joke right now. But I
yeah.
fight with them all the time. I said, hey, the next time you tell me context doesn't matter, I'm gonna punch you in your face because of course context matters. And listen,
Yes.
feel free to fire. Hey, and I always tell them, feel free to fire me. Feel free to fire me because, like I say, I'm trying to hang on for these next 3 years. And if y'all fire me over some stupid shit, y'all probably still got to pay me. So that to me would be the perfect scenario. Let's do something where I can get fired and still get paid.
All right. Well, I've always admired. I think my theory is because you're honest, you're candid, you're refreshing, and even if somebody disagrees with you, I know you speak from the heart and are willing to listen and discuss. And we've talked a lot over the years off camera about a lot of things that you've enlightened me, and hopefully I've enlightened you. All right, we're going to wind this up. I have a few questions here. So kind of our gimme five to wrap it up. So these are more shorter answers here, Charles. Who's more high maintenance to work with on your shows or commercials? Is it Shaq or Samuel L. Jackson?
Oh, Shaq.
Shaq.
Shaq is hot.
Okay. No.
Sam is a man. Sam is amazing to work with, Chris. He's taught me
Okay.
more
Oh,
little subtle things about acting that's really helped me, not just in the Capital One ads, but in other ads I
right.
do.
Okay.
But Shaq is the
Yeah.
most high maintenance. But you know what? I told you earlier. I don't understand why he wants to work all the time. I mean, this dude, he's doing his Vegas residency right now, where he DJs every night, and like
Yeah.
every weekend during the season, he has something to do. And I always laugh.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. Why you like the reason you work hard when you're younger is to enjoy life as you get older. You don't have to work every day, all day.
Yeah. No, that's what he wants to do. All right. Toughest, you may have answered this if it's not Michael Jordan, but toughest basketball player you ever played against.
Kevin
Toughest.
McHale.
Kevin. Oh,
Kevin
okay. I like
McHale's
that.
yeah. Well, he's
All
the best player I played against, Kevin McHale. I mean, it's a few different tough guys out there, but as far as
right.
the best player I've ever played against personally, is Kevin McHale. He was amazing.
Okay. How about this? Name a person that you were starstruck when you met, you met him, or you said, "Oh man, I can't believe that just happened." I mean, who wowed you like that?
Probably the first time. Well, the first time I was on, it was probably Bear Bryant. It was
Okay.
probably Bear
Wow.
Bryant.
Okay.
When I
And I
went on
remember
my
you.
visit to Alabama, Bear Bryant. But in the NBA, we're playing the Lakers, and Jack Nicholson said my name, and he said something like, "Good luck, Rook. Welcome to the NBA." When I went home, I called everybody in the world and told them that Jack Nicholson know who I am, and I've got
That's
to. And
cool.
I was like, but him and Denzel Washington, when they said my name, it was one of the coolest moments in my, because it was early for both of them, because they're staple at Lakers games. But when Denzel said my name and introduced himself, and same thing with Jack, man, it was one of the coolest moments of my life.
That's cool. All right. How about you? You could eat just one food for the rest of your life. What food would that be?
Uh man, I can't eat one. I'm a fat dude. I can't eat one piece. So it's gonna be either chicken, some type of pasta. Fried chicken is like when you get it done right, it's the coolest thing. But I
Okay.
love pasta and I love pizza. Pizza if it's done the right way.
Okay.
But it's probably one of those three, to be honest with you.
All right. And then finally here, what would you now tell your 20-year-old self if you had the chance?
That's a great question. I think the first thing you have to tell yourself, like, you can't overreact when people say mean things to you. Because when you're in the limelight, number one, never, I never do social media. Never have, never will.
All right.
I'm glad I told myself that 5 or 6 years ago instead of when I was
All right.
20 years old. Surround yourself with people you can trust
Okay.
because because in fairness to me, Chris, I'm not sure I'd well when I got one of those 30, $40 million paychecks, I'd really like to think about that. But it's hard on these people today. With the scrutiny, the cell phone, um, you got all these talking heads on television. Everybody's got a blog, and they can say whatever they want to you about you. I'm I'm just glad I grew up in a time that we did when we first met, way, way, way back,
Yeah.
because even though they pay you all this money now, it's a totally different animal. I mean, I remember, we used to go out drinking with the reporters, and you just like, hey, what's on the record, what's off the record. And listen, I'm not sure if I'm a jock today, I'm gonna go out with reporters because I'm not sure what they will keep off the record, on the record. I mean, so I would, I'm just proud of my journey. Not to
All
pat
right.
myself on the back. When this thing started in a small town, a couple thousand people in Alabama. I remember living in a project with a single mom, grandmother, and two brothers. And now I just turned 58, and there was no way. And like I say, I went to college for 3 years, played in the NBA for 16 years, been on television for 20 years. Man, that my man for the Yankees, he said he the luckiest man alive. I'm in that conversation too, because
Yeah.
when you're in the
Uh,
projects of Leeds, Alabama, you're not thinking you're gonna grow up and and do this and this and this and this and this. So, man, it's just been a crazy, amazing journey, and I'm lucky.
Well, yeah, good. Well, that 20-year-old guy has turned out okay. Well, it's been a pleasure to know, not only to watch TV basketball, to know through all these years, and I always enjoy talking to you. So you take care of your family, enjoy
Uh,
yourself. I know you will, and I look forward to next time, Charles. I really do.
hey, man, you've been a friend for a long time. When you reached out to me the other day, I'm like, of course, let's just set it up. You've been a friend for a long time. Number one, you've had a good run yourself. I mean,
Yes.
I tell people, I just finished my 36th year in this thing. I don't know how long you've been in it, but man, it's been a great ride for you and continued success, my brother.
Well, thank you. Hey, we're just getting started, the next chapter. All right, take care, Charles. We'll see you later. And we thank
Uh,
you for watching with Charles Barkley here on Chris and Tell.